Welcome, Santa Clarita. This is your essential weekly connection to the most important news stories affecting our valley. On KQRU 107.9 FM, we go beyond the headlines to bring you the stories shaping our present and future. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and entertained. This is Santa Clarita Weekly. And now, here's your host, Sage Rafferty.
So welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly. I'm Sage Rafferty. You can listen to the show at KQRU 107.9 FM on Thursday afternoons at 5:30 and on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We're also on YouTube and Instagram, and you can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. In Los Angeles County, there's a huge surge in ICE raids that has upended communities, sparking protests, legal battles, and unexpected fallout. From abandoned pets to fears of fraud, the impact is profound. Senator Adam Schiff from California gave a speech on Donald Trump's policies on the floor of the Senate. And finally, in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers may be looking to make a trade. So let's start out talking about the ICE raids. So Los Angeles County is gripped by tension this summer. Since early June, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has conducted what some call the largest immigration sweeps in the region's recent history. The New York Times reports nearly 3,000 arrests since the raids began, a sharp rise from 850 in May. From MacArthur Park to Ventura County Farms, federal agents, almost all of them masked, some on horseback, have left communities on edge. On July 7th, MacArthur Park, a vibrant immigrant hub, became a focal point. Hundreds of federal agents backed by National Guard and U.S. Marines swept through an operation residents described as militaristic, and people are saying they're scared to go outside. The raids extended to Ventura County's agricultural heartland. On July 10th, CBS News reported over 300 workers arrested at two Camarillo cannabis farms, with agents using tear gas and helicopter-dropped munitions. Local officials decried the economic hit, estimating $9 million in losses from disrupted tax revenue and strained law enforcement. So the aggressive tactics prompted a swift legal response. On July 11th, U.S. District Court Judge Mame Frimpong issued a temporary restraining order halting what she called indiscriminate sweeps across 7 California counties, including Los Angeles and Ventura. The ACLU of Southern California, which filed the lawsuit, accused ICE of racial profiling and denying detainees access to counsel. The ruling requires agents to have reasonable suspicion for arrests and ensures detainees can access lawyers at the federal building in downtown Los Angeles. But the federal government remains defiant. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, named in the lawsuit, addressed the ruling in a recent press conference, misgendering Judge Frimpong and doubling down on ICE's operations.
On the California front, I believe a federal judge yesterday ruled that some of those raids in South Florida.
Yeah, he's an idiot. I mean, he's frankly an idiot. We have all the right in the world to go out on the streets and to uphold the law and to do what we're going to do. So none of our operations are going to change. He made claims that were absolutely false. We are building cases. We are going in on doing our operations and planning them against individuals that we know are dangerous, that are violent, that have criminal activity that they've been involved in, and that's how we're building our cases. So he's making up garbage, filing decisions, and we're going to appeal it, and we're going to win.
Just to follow up, though, before the appeal, you said you're going to continue those operations?
Yeah, our operations will continue. We will be in compliance with all federal judges' orders, but what he said that we couldn't do is go out and target people based on other qualifications that he made up. We're going to continue to do our investigations on criminal activity and uphold the law.
Noem's remarks have drawn sharp criticism for both the misgendering of Judge Frimpong and the dismissal of allegations of racial profiling as, quote, categorically false, end quote. In a follow-up statement, Noem reiterated her stance. Critics, including a coalition of 18 states supporting the ACLU's lawsuit, argue the raids are politically driven, targeting sanctuary cities like Los Angeles. Mayor Karen Bass has joined the legal fight, signing an executive order on July 11th to bolster the city's sanctuary policies. The order provides cash assistance to affected families and directs city workers to avoid cooperating with ICE. The human toll is stark. In immigrant neighborhoods, fear has reshaped daily life. Churches, no longer safe havens after the Trump administration rescinded protections, have moved services online or deliver communion to homes. The Los Angeles Times reports a surge in abandoned pets, with shelters like AGWC Rock and Rescue in Woodland Hills overwhelmed. One pit bull, Chuco, was left behind after his owner's deportation following a Barstow raid. Fraud is another growing concern. It's reported that scammers posing as immigration attorneys are exploiting desperate families. Supervisor Hilda Solis has urged residents to verify credentials through the California Bar Association to avoid losing thousands to fake lawyers. But not everyone opposes the raids, of course. Former California Assembly member and current U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley, posting on X, argues that they're necessary to address crimes in areas like MacArthur Park, where some vendors are linked to illegal drug and gun sales. But for many people, the raids feel like an assault on their communities. Protests continue from Dodger Stadium to Ventura County as residents clash with federal agents. The ACLU vows to enforce a judge's order, while ICE, backed by Nome's defiance, presses on. You're listening to KQRU 107.9 Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m., on Saturday mornings at 9, and on YouTube, Instagram, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So President Trump has signed into law what he has personally dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill, a sweeping piece of legislation that touches on everything from economic deregulation to domestic manufacturing incentives. The bill has been met with both fervent support and strenuous opposition, further highlighting deep divisions in our country. And on July 9th, on the floor of the United States Senate, a prominent voice for the opposition, Senator Adam Schiff of California, delivered a compelling address, and in his speech, Schiff offered a detailed critique of the newly signed law and the broader implications of the administration's policies. He laid out what he believes will be the short-term and long-term impacts on the American economy, our social fabric, and our standing in the world. So let's listen to the highlights of Senator Schiff's speech.
Mr. President, over the last 250 years, this country has grown from a handful of rebellious colonies to an economic, scientific, military, cultural, technological, and agricultural behemoth. And crucially, through it all, we have remained a democracy devoted to the hard work our founders envisioned of making our nation a more perfect union. Progress has not always been straightforward, but it has been consistent over time and nothing short of extraordinary, which is why it is all the more heartbreaking to see so much damage, so much self-inflicted harm imposed on our country by this administration over the last 170 days. Indeed, if you were to design a presidency and policies to diminish our scientific and technological prowess from within, it would look a lot like this administration. If you were determined to kill our clean energy future and retreat from any hope of addressing climate change, it would look a lot like this. If you wanted to undermine our standing around the world, befriend dictatorships, and betray our fellow democracies, it would look a lot like this. If you wanted to deliberately tear at the social fabric and cohesion of our country, set state against state and people against people to the point of conflict in the streets, it would look a lot like this administration. The president and his cabinet have been tearing down so much of what makes this country special, and so quickly that it has been hard to see the big picture, hard to separate the biggest harms from merely the most sensational or the most proximate. 100 days was not enough time to evaluate the harms this administration had already inflicted on our country and its people, but 170 days just might be sufficient. So today I want to go through the top 10 ways this administration has been wrecking the country, from the thoughtless and irresponsible to the illegal and unconstitutional, to the deliberately cruel and malicious. I want to tell you what the actions of this presidency have really meant for the country and for our future. So here they are, the top 10 ways the administration is wrecking the country. Donald Trump is waging an all-out war on America's research universities. America's universities have been the envy of the world for much of the last century, powering scientific achievement and economic growth, dramatic breakthroughs in medicine, significant achievements in the arts, technological innovation, and all of the attendant economic benefits have been driven by a decades-old partnership between universities and the federal government. As a part of this grand bargain, the federal government invests in research conducted at top universities, and the country enjoys the benefits. From brilliant scientists in academia, the military gets new technologies and capabilities, including innovations in fusion energy, laser technology, electronic jamming capabilities, and so much more. Our healthcare is improved, and our lifespans are increased by university-led research into new medicines, medical implants, and devices. Food science helps us grow healthier crops and produce more food with less water and less pesticides. You would be hard-pressed to find a field of scientific endeavor in which university research has failed to deliver, taking away food from hungry kids in America. Donald Trump promised to make America healthy again, but he is not. Instead, he has settled for making America hungry again. The budget just realized through their big, ugly bill makes a multi-$100 billion cut to the SNAP program. That's supplemental nutrition and food assistance, basically food for hungry kids and families. This isn't a cut that can be explained away with a vague multi-purpose phrase or platitude like waste, fraud, and abuse, or by engaging in funny math. Feeding hungry families is not wasteful. Providing fresh food at schools for kids that can't otherwise afford to eat is not a fraud, and helping seniors living on the edge of poverty afford a meal is not an abuse. Donald Trump is destroying our alliances with democratic nations around the world and aligning our country with dictators. Across administrations and decades, America has been a symbol of stability for the globe, a trusted partner, a champion of freedom and democracy. We have stood up to evil empires and championed the cause of liberty. And though we have made more than our share of mistakes in trying to rebuild other nations in our image, we have strived to achieve a foreign policy consistent with our values. Now, in just the first few months, so much of that legacy has been betrayed. So many of our alliances have been degraded. So much of our standing in the world has been made small. So many of our friends have become estranged, our treaty partners unsure of whether they can count on us in a pinch. Donald Trump likes to talk about peace through strength. He likes to think that bullying our friends or extorting a price for our security guarantees is what makes us strong. But he is wrong. He trashes our relationships with our friends. He belittles the Canadians and the British who fought and died alongside American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. He denigrates Ukrainians and their brave president, who fight nobly in the defense of their democracy and their sovereignty. And he insists on Ukraine paying tribute in the form of mineral rights to secure his support. The administration is wrecking what is best about this country is their pointless, economically suicidal, and self-destructive attack on the development of renewable energy. Renewable energy can lead the world away from a climate catastrophe. It can be an economic slingshot catapulting us into an abundant energy future that is American-made. It can truly make us energy independent instead of simply more dependent on the fossil fuel industry. But Trump has attacked clean energy with a vengeance. repealing incentives passed during the Biden administration. And why? Because they were passed during the Biden administration, and because Donald Trump made a promise to oil companies in exchange for campaign cash. Lots of it. More than $1 billion of it. The big ugly bill phases out tax credits meant to spur development of solar and wind power and replaces them with tax credits for coal, the broader attack on health and science. The administration is slashing the National Institutes of Health, the nation's premier medical research agency. They have cut NIH by almost half. Almost half. Now, I'm no scientist, but I took enough science classes in college to know my way around a lab. And I'm certainly no economist, but I can do basic math. And I can tell you with certainty, as anyone can who looks at this, that cutting NIH in half, massively gutting research grants and positions, will lead to the cancellation of clinical trials and new treatments, and to Americans needlessly suffering from any number of illnesses and disease. It will mean scaling back research efforts on everything from cancer to Alzheimer's to HIV/AIDS, destroying years or decades of research in any number of fields that might have been weeks or months away from a breakthrough. That hurts everyone. There isn't a senator in this body who hasn't been visited by families with sick children or sick parents or constituents who are ill themselves, constituents who have pleaded with us that we increase funding for NIH, who have put a human face on the hope that they or their loved ones might be saved. Saved if only we invest in NIH. And now we turn our back on them. And for what? For what? The massive DOGE cuts to the federal workforce and federal agencies everywhere. Elon Musk and his lot of unqualified, unvetted, unrestrained tech bros have taken a chainsaw to any number of federal grants, federal contracts, federal departments, and federal jobs without the slightest understanding of the human consequences. Musk may have held himself harmless during these massive cuts. He managed to use his position in the administration to expand his billions in government contracts at Starlink. But everyone else was made to suffer. Now that he is gone, the wrecking crew continues its work. DOGE accidentally cut nuclear safety staff, then had to rush and try to rehire them. They cut specialists in bird flu, and then they had to try to rush and rehire them. Remember those coal tax credits I mentioned earlier? Well, they're cutting mine safety efforts, making dangerous work even more so. They doged USAID and diminished our soft power around the world. They are dismantling the Department of Education and selling off our children's education piece by piece. The on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, on again tariffs. The ill-considered, ill-executed, unpredictable, unproductive, costly, indiscriminate, and self-destructive tariffs. For a president who ran on lowering costs, his most significant economic action has been a colossal backfire. Prices for your 4th of July barbecue last week were the highest they've ever been. Like the costs of burgers or beer. Phones are now more expensive. Cars are more expensive. Prices at Walmart, Target, Costco, up, up, up. And on Amazon, they were going to add a specific line item for the cost of the Trump tariffs, besides each affected product, until the Trump administration begged its owner, Jeff Bezos, not to be so transparent with their own customers because it made the president look bad. This didn't stop Amazon from adding the Trump tax to the price of the goods you buy on Amazon. It's just stopped Amazon from showing you just how much more you are paying. And while you get poorer because of these tariffs, America is not getting any stronger. While your pocketbook is getting hit, so too is our standing around the globe. After all, these chaotic tariffs give our trading partners all too accurate an impression that we are unpredictable, that we are unstable, that America, with all its power, is unreliable. So those trading partners are flocking elsewhere. They go to China or to India or elsewhere. The fact is, we have so alienated even our closest friends and allies that some countries like Canada have gone beyond reciprocal tariffs to a downright boycott of American goods, devastating American farmers, small businesses, and consumers alike. The art of the deal, indeed. When the Senate passed Trump's big, ugly bill last week, 50 of our colleagues put their stamp on a budget that will devastate Medicaid, that will mean hospitals and clinics close, that millions of Americans will lose access to life-saving care. That will mean people get their care denied. That will mean the long, hard fight against opioids will be set back by cuts to substance abuse treatment. After promising that Medicaid would not be touched, that our health care would not be harmed, they cut it by $1 trillion. Trump's undermining of the rule of law. The assault of the rule of law began almost immediately with the pardon of 1,550 people who committed one of the most serious offenses in the nation's history, attacking the U.S. Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. In granting pardons to hundreds of offenders who used violence that day against police officers, Donald Trump sent a powerful message to his followers that they may use violence on his behalf and he would have their back, that he would insulate them from the law and from accountability. And more than that, that he would promote them, advocate for them, appoint them to high positions in a new Justice Department, a department oriented not towards justice, not devoted to a rule of law, but devoted only to him. In Trump's Justice Department, we are no longer a nation of laws, but a nation of men to be rewarded or punished according to the president's whims. A mayor of New York charged with corruption has his case dismissed, not because of any prosecutorial misconduct or lack of evidence, but because he is useful to the president on an unrelated policy matter. In Trump's Justice Department, the absence of evidence or lawful predication is no bar to initiating a criminal investigation, when a political pretext will do. He is using the department as both sword and shield, a sword to pursue his enemies and a shield to protect his friends, and to protect no one more than himself. A president given immunity by Supreme Court justices he appointed, acting like a convicted felon because he is a convicted felon, now engaging in the most blatant graft and corruption, accepting gifts and gratuities, airplanes and commissions in the hundreds of millions, in the billions, and without any fear of investigation, let alone prosecution. The inspector generals are gone. The watchdogs are gone. Only the dogs are left to feed on the carrion that was the rule of law. When courts try to restrain the Trump administration's illegality, his departments ignore their orders. We saw it with the Alien Enemies Act. We see it with the unlawful impoundment of FEMA funds, with the lawless withholding of state funding, with attacks on foreign assistance appropriated by Congress, with racial profiling and illegal renditions to foreign prisons without due process, or frankly, any kind of process. One way in which Donald Trump and his administration are wrecking this country, and that is by destroying the very idea of America. Our nation was formed as an improbable experiment, an experiment based on the unproven idea that people possessed sufficient virtue to be self-governing, that we did not need to be ruled by a tyrant. From that humble and daring beginning, the idea grew that a country so constituted, so organized, could not only rule itself, but could attract the best and the brightest, the most industrious of souls from all over the earth and make them Americans. That there would be no caste system in America, that here anyone with the drive, the talent, and the intellect could prosper. That there were no limits to what we could achieve. That idea that became America was our most powerful appeal, our calling card at home and around the world. It has driven people to our shores. It has inspired people in dark prison cells in Iran, in labor camps in China, in gulags in Russia, and in impoverished places everywhere to dream of America, what it stands for, and what it might mean to them if only they were so lucky, so very lucky, to one day move to this great place called America. And Donald Trump's destruction of that idea, the idea of America as the last best hope of mankind, is the worst offense of this administration.
All right, so let's shift to sports. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Los Angeles Dodgers are currently sitting at a respectable 57-39 on the season. However, that record doesn't quite tell the whole story. The team recently snapped its most significant losing streak since 2017, a skid that had many fans feeling a little uneasy. With Major League Baseball trade deadline looming at the end of the month, the Dodgers find themselves at a crossroads. So while the defending champions have a potent lineup, their pitching staff has been hit hard by injuries, a narrative that has felt like a broken record all season long, and even last season, if you remember. But to make a serious push in the second half, it's clear that acquiring more pitching depth is a top priority. Several names have been floated as potential targets, but a recent proposal from Tim Kelly at Bleacher Report has caught the attention of many. Kelly suggests a trade that would bring high-impact reliever to the Dodgers bullpen, a pitcher who is currently leading all of baseball in a fascinating statistic. So the proposed deal is for Minnesota Twins reliever Griffin Jax. Now, at first glance, his 4.02 earned run average might not jump off the page, but a deeper dive into the advanced analytics reveals a pitcher who is far more dominant than his ERA suggests. So among the pitchers who have faced at least 150 batters, Jax boasts the highest chase rate in the league with an incredible 41.6% of batters swinging at pitches outside the strike zone. But it doesn't stop there. He ranks in the 99th percentile in both swing and miss percentage and strikeout percentage. So why the high ERA? A key indicator is his fielding independent pitching, or FIP, which sits at a stellar 1.89. For context, average FIP is around 4.20. FIP measures the outcome of a pitcher has direct control over strikeouts, walks, hit by pitches, and home runs allowed. The significant difference between Jax's ERA and his FIP suggests that he has been the victim of some poor defense by the Twins, who are tied for the 8th lowest fielding percentage in the majors and a good deal of bad luck. And of course, a reliever of this caliber won't come cheap. Kelly's proposal suggests that the Dodgers would need to part with some of their top prospects to get a deal done for Jax, who has 2 years of arbitration remaining on his contract. The names being floated, including shortstop Alex Freeland and the Dodgers' number 3 prospect and the second overall in the minors, and left-handed pitcher Jackson Ferris, the Dodgers' number 4 prospect and ranked 69th in all of minor league baseball. So it's a godfather offer to be sure, but one that could be necessary to solidify Dodgers bullpen for another deep postseason run. So will the front office pull the trigger? We'll be keeping a close eye on this as the trade deadline approaches. So that's all we have for today. But tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM and at 5:30 on Thursday evenings and at 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. So leave us a comment and be sure So leave us a comment and be sure to subscribe to Santa Clarita Weekly online. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.